Imagine a wilderness. It is vast, wild, and seemingly complete. The mountains touch the sky, and the rivers carve through the valleys. But for 70 years, something was missing from this landscape. A sound that had echoed here for millennia had vanished. The howl of the wolf. When we look at nature, we often see the scenery, the trees, and the water. But an ecosystem is more than just a backdrop. It is a complex machine of gears and levers. When you remove a single gear, the entire system can be affected. The entire machine begins to break down. This is the story of Yellowstone, the wolf, and the discovery of how a single species can hold an entire world together. To understand the importance of the wolf, we must first understand a concept from architecture. Look at a stone arch. It stands tall, defying gravity, supporting immense weight, but it relies entirely on one specific piece, the keystone. This is the wedge-shaped stone at the very apex of the arch. It locks all the other stones into place. If you remove the keystone, the arch doesn't just get weaker, it collapses entirely. In ecology, a keystone species functions exactly the same way. It is a species on which other species in an ecosystem largely depend. If it is removed, the ecosystem changes drastically. It creates a collapse of the biological structure. It is crucial to realize that not all species are equal in terms of their impact. In any ecosystem, you have abundant species like grass or deer. They are numerous, they are visible, and they are important. But they are not keystones. A keystone species is defined by a specific ratio. It often has a low population, but a massive impact. A handful of predators can shape the lives of thousands of prey animals and millions of plants. Examples include sea otters, beavers, and elephants. Each plays a crucial, disproportionate role in maintaining the structure of their home. Without them, the balance is lost. Our case study takes us to the crown jewel of the American wilderness, Yellowstone National Park. Spanning Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho, it is America's first national park. But in the early 20th century, it was the site of a catastrophic mistake. In the 1920s, the U.S. government adopted a policy of predator elimination. The goal seemed logical at the time: protect the elk and cattle for the benefit of hunters and ranchers. By the mid-1920s, the last wolf pack in Yellowstone was destroyed. This marked the beginning of a 70-year unintentional experiment. We removed the keystone, and then we watched what happened. With the wolves gone, the immediate result was exactly what the government hoped for, but on a scale they didn't anticipate. We saw a population explosion. Without their primary predator, the elk population exploded dramatically. But it wasn't just the numbers that changed, it was their behavior. No predators meant the elk stopped being afraid. This created an overgrazing crisis. Instead of moving constantly to avoid being hunted, the elk stood in one spot and ate everything. They congregated in the valleys, devouring the willow and aspen trees along the riverbanks, stripping the land bare. This phenomenon is known to science as a trophic cascade. It is a ripple effect that starts at the top of the food chain and tumbles all the way down to the bottom. In Yellowstone, the cascade was devastating. First, the elk ate baby trees. Because they were grazing without fear, no new trees could grow along the riverbanks. Every time a young sapling sprouted, it was eaten before it could mature. Second, the birds lost homes. Without trees, songbirds had nowhere to nest, and their populations declined sharply. Third, the rivers got hotter. Without the shade of the willow and aspen trees, the water temperature rose, stressing the fish populations that relied on cool water. The damage extended into the physical geography of the park. We witnessed soil erosion and river changes. Trees and shrubs are not just food, they are anchors. Their roots hold the soil of the riverbanks in place. When the elk ate the grass and roots, the soil became unstable and loose. River erosion accelerated. The rivers began to erode and widen significantly. The water became muddy and shallow, choking out aquatic life. It is a stark realization. The removal of a single predator altered the entire park's geography. The landscape transformed over decades, degrading into a shadow of its former self. By the 1990s, scientists realized the magnitude of the mistake. The ecosystem damage was clear and undeniable. Action was needed to restore the balance. In a historic and controversial move, the decision was made to reintroduce the predator. In 1995, 14 gray wolves were captured in Canada and released into Yellowstone. It was a small number, just 14 animals, but they carried the weight of an entire ecosystem on their backs. Biologists were hopeful, but ranchers were angry. The experiment had entered its second phase. The impact was immediate, but not in the way you might think. It wasn't just about the killing. The immediate impact was fear. Wolves did kill some elk, reducing the population to sustainable levels, but that wasn't the biggest change. The real impact was psychological. Ecologists call this the ecology of fear. The elk became scared and vigilant again. They stopped standing lazily in the open valleys and riverbanks. They kept moving, retreating to higher ground and denser cover to avoid the wolves. This behavioral shift changed everything. Because the elk kept moving, the land got a break. We saw vegetation recovery. The elk stopped camping on the riverbanks, allowing the plants to survive. Willow and aspen trees regenerated quickly. It was a rapid transformation. In some areas, trees grew from tiny stubs to 15-foot forests in just 6 years. Valleys that had been brown and barren for decades turned lush and green again. The return of the predator had acted as a fertilizer for the forest, not by adding nutrients, but by changing the behavior of the prey. As the trees returned, so did the architects of the wild. This is the return of the beaver. Beavers rely on willow trees for food and construction material. When the willows were eaten by elk, the beavers starved and vanished. But as the trees grew back, the beavers returned. Beavers are ecosystem engineers. They eat the trees and build dams. These dams created new ponds, storing water and creating diverse wetland habitats that had been missing for half a century. The recovery of the trees and the return of the water sparked a biodiversity boost. Songbirds returned in droves. New trees meant new nesting sites, and bird diversity increased dramatically. But it wasn't just birds. Grizzly bears thrived. The regenerating berry bushes provided a crucial food source for the bears. Furthermore, bears began to scavenge wolf kills, getting free meals that helped them survive the winters. The web of life was reweaving itself, strand by strand. Wolves are not wasteful eaters. They leave leftovers. This supported the scavengers. Wolf kills provide a steady source of food for a host of other animals. Ravens, eagles, and foxes rely on these remains. This is particularly vital for winter survival. Before the wolves returned, many scavengers starved during the harsh Yellowstone winters. Now, the wolf kills provide a crucial, year-round food source, smoothing out the boom and bust cycle of survival for these smaller predators. The return of the king also meant a demotion for the prince. Wolves began controlling coyotes. Before the wolves returned, coyotes had become the top predator in Yellowstone, and their population had exploded. They ate all the small mammals, like rabbits and mice. When the wolves arrived, they killed coyotes or chased them away, reducing their population significantly. This restored balance. Rabbit and mouse populations increased. This, in turn, meant more food was available for hawks, badgers, and foxes. The hierarchy was restored. Perhaps the most miraculous change happened in the water itself. This is river restoration. As the trees grew back on the banks, their roots held the soil in place firmly. The rivers stopped eroding and widening. The channels deepened and narrowed. Pools formed in the deeper water, creating the perfect habitat for trout and other fish. It sounds like a myth, but it is scientific fact. Wolves actually change the behavior of the rivers. The physical geography of the park was transformed simply by the return of its top predator. The wolves brought more than just ecological balance. They brought prosperity. The economic impact of ecotourism has been staggering. Live wolves are worth far more than dead ones. The presence of the packs generates approximately $35 million in annual revenue for local towns. Thousands of wolf watchers visit Yellowstone every year just for a glimpse of these animals. This influx creates jobs and supports local businesses, proving that conservation can be an economic engine. However, the story is not without its shadows. There is ongoing conflict. Wolves do not respect park boundaries. They leave the park, and when they do, they sometimes kill livestock like cows and sheep. This has led to fierce arguments. Ranchers and hunters argue that wolf numbers must be reduced to protect their livelihoods. Managing this conflict, balancing the needs of nature with the needs of the human economy, remains a major ongoing challenge for conservationists today. Yellowstone is not unique. The principle of the Keystone Species applies everywhere. Consider the sea otter. They eat sea urchins. Without otters, the urchins multiply and eat all the kelp forests, destroying the ocean ecosystem. Consider bees. They pollinate flowers across the globe. Without them, many plants cannot reproduce, and our agriculture would collapse. Consider the starfish. They eat mussels in tide pools. Without them, mussels take over completely, crowding out all other life. In every environment, there is a keystone holding the arch together. Why does this matter to us? It teaches us about invisible connections. Nature is connected in invisible, complex ways that we are only just beginning to understand. You cannot pull one string without moving the whole web. When we protect the keystone, we protect the whole castle. Biodiversity depends on these crucial species. By saving the wolf, we saved the river, the tree, the bird, and the bear. It is a lesson in humility and the intricate design of our planet. In summary, the power of the wolf is the power of nature itself. Wolves are a keystone species. They play a crucial role in ecosystem health that extends far beyond simple predation. Their removal caused a 70-year collapse characterized by overpopulation and erosion. But their reintroduction proved that nature can heal. The trophic cascade reversed the damage, restoring rivers, vegetation, and wildlife. Predators are essential to survive. We must understand that conservation isn't just about saving a single animal. It is about protecting the entire interconnected web of life.